Hey, this is Loral and welcome back. Glenn Morshower and Ken Walls with me today on our third of our 4-part series. Today we're going to talk about overcoming toxic beliefs and embrace your divine mission. You all have one. You've all been called to do something. Mine is to do and make millionaires and debunk all the myths and mistakes around money. What is your divine mission? We're going to talk about that today. Specifically, how do you identify toxic beliefs? You've got to start with the identification and awareness of it. Then, how do you understand your internal mandates? You all have them. Many of you don't listen to them. Glenn calls them whispers, so we'll be talking about that. And finally, how do you reprogram yourself for success? Bob Proctor and I talked about that for decades while he was alive. Glenn and Ken are going to do an amazing job on this next section. One angle that I take for people in that is, I always ask an audience, how many of you want to help other people? 99% of them will say, absolutely, I want to help other people. So then I flip it, and Glenn, I know you've heard me say this, is I'll say, then why are you sitting on your arse? Since we're having fun with these words.
Arse and stuff, yes.
But why are you sitting there and being an emotional entrepreneur, acting like you have a company and you haven't even got 2 clients or 10 clients? In your stuckness, you're being selfish. And Bob Proctor taught me this. He said, nervous energy is selfish energy because you're worried about yourself. So while you're worried about yourself and your own stuff, right? Then you're actually ripping people off because people need your divine mission.
And you called it emotional entrepreneurship, which is like, wow, what a great term. That's a great term.
They're not an engaged entrepreneur. They're not like marketing and really out changing lives. If you say you're going to change your life, then change your damn life. Like stop sitting there going, but I need the perfect path. And if I don't know what it is, and if I don't know steps 1 to 10, I can't move. I said, that's the say yes and figure it out. Figure the more stuff out, like figure it out, like start walking, but standing still and stagnant is never going to change your life. So a lot of times I've gotten people to shift by looking at their behavior from not shaming them, but saying you're ripping people off and you're lying to yourself because you say you want to help people, but you aren't doing anything. There's no marketing. There's no sales. There's not even an offer. Don't say you're a coach, you're a consultant, or you're whatever, and you've never had an order. Like you've never even had $2. Like that's just saying you want to do it. And again, you're not serving anybody's life while you're staying stuck in your own selfishness. What would you guys say to that? That's a little harsh, but I think
I don't think it's harsh at all. I think it's very frank, very real, very truthful. And, if people could interact with each other, and certainly they can, but if they were willing to do that with the bluntness in terms of feedback of a belt. Have you noticed how a belt never lies to you? That's all I want in my friendships is people with the honesty of a belt. I'm not talking about a belt.
Can I talk about your beard then right now?
You've already made so many derogatory remarks. I'm crystal clear that if you were gay, I would not be your love interest. I'm already clear on that.
You couldn't even kiss each other in a movie, I heard.
I know. It's in the way. Now, if I could get back to my meaningful point about a belt. The idea is that a belt never lies. We're not talking about beating someone with a belt. We're talking about the belt around your waist. It never lies. It never fabricates. It never soft pedals. It tells you you're the same, you've gained weight, or you've lost weight. And it does it unemotionally. So what do? We go get rid of the belt if we don't like the one that's telling us the truth. We go replace it with a bigger belt that'll lie to us. Think about it. That's what people do. They get rid of the belt. It's interesting. By the way, I'm just feeling good. I'm feeling lighthearted. I'm feeling playful. So accept my giddiness because it's been, as you guys know, we had a few key losses, big ones at the end of the year of people we love and cherish. And the ship continues to move on. And we've got our jobs to do. And one of our dearest friends, I know because I knew him so well, would be handing us the torch and saying, please carry on with this same mission, the same mission that I was on. Well, it happens to be the mission that I've been on my whole life. So I gladly accept the responsibility of continuing Bob's mission.
That's actually who introduced you and I.
That's correct. And that's why he's fresh in my mind. I am so very grateful to Bob for that. And Bob and Loral and I had a lot of interaction. But Ken, I'm all kidding aside, I want to turn to you and say, do you have any idea how genius what you just said was and what Loral just said But I want to go back because I'm not sure that you grasp the enormity of what you just said. And you were talking about your belief, your intrinsic belief that God put us, and I'm quoting you exactly, that God put us here to make a splash was the word you used.
Yep.
First of all, I couldn't agree with you more. Let's underline the genius here, because what that is that is a declaration for anyone who wants to write down notes. This would be a good time to write something down. The idea that is a declaration of the regard that Ken holds for life. That is his overview. If you think about it, he wakes up, his predominant thought is, oh yeah, I'm here to make a splash. So then that operates as the motivating force, the driving force up underneath all actions and all ideas that will be occurring to him. It is a reflection of that regard. If you have no regard for life, then you would just as soon extinguish life. You will misbehave. There's a really good chance you'll wind up in prison. It's an absence of regard for life. If you think about it, if we had a time machine and you could rewind time and take most inmates, I did not say all, but most inmates suffer from a blatant disregard for life. Most. Not being ugly, especially the murderers. How does it get that way? And it's because there's no inherent regard for life. So if you believe that you are here to make a big deal because you are a big deal, which you are, Loral, which you are, Ken, which you are, Glenn, right? We're a big deal. But to be clear, this is not a dance of arrogance. You are no bigger nor smaller than anybody else. But here's your edge. Pay attention. What? What's your edge? Your edge is that you know it. That's your edge. If you know that you matter, and if you know unequivocally that we are here to make a splash, that is a changed person. That's a person who lives a very different life. The average person, if you were to interview them and said, tell me, do you feel that you're here to make a significant splash? Do you know what the average response? I know because I've done these kinds of surveys, and I'm not all jacked up right now. This is just really the truth about humans. The average response is silence. The average response is no response. Do you feel that you're here to make a significant splash? They very seldom go, yes, and they very seldom go, no. What ensues is quiet, which means they haven't spent much time contemplating the potentiality of their splash. I'm not going woo-woo here. This is really significant. Like, how much do you believe your precious, unrepeatable life actually matters? How much do you believe it matters? Because if you really believe it, you're not just saying it for lip service or because it'll make you popular on the internet, right? You're saying it because you believe it. Then if you believe it, it will look like it in your life. We were taught when we were kids, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands, right? So they didn't just say, if you're happy, clap your hands. They said, if you're happy and you know it. So they were teaching us something very significant without really maybe being crystal clear on that. But they were talking about the importance of knowing it. You can't just clap and be happy. You've got to clap and know it, and then you'll be happy. Know that your life matters, then it will. Know that you're here to make a splash, then you will, right? It's all about what do you know to be the governing truth of your life. At your very core, what are your core beliefs about why you even breathe in the first place? And when you get real clear on that, the clarity with which you move through life will be identifiably stronger than what is typically seen in the world. And you're not competing with anyone else. It's just the way it works. And that is available to any human being that has ever breathed air, unless they think it's not.
Well, and Glenn, it reminds me of, how many times you and I have been together. We've taken a walk. I'll never forget our walk in Savannah.
We've had several walks.
But it's interesting when you walk in a room, when I walk in a room, Ken, we were soon to walk in a room together. I have a big invitation for you too at the end of our show. But there's notoriously, especially you, Glenn, like you'll walk into a room and people know it. And it's not like because you're here like, ta-da, I'm Glenn, I'm here and I'm arrogant. Like that is never who you are. When I walk into a room, people know it. You and I energetically, without saying a thing, can shift a room. And that's showing your edge. And that edge, I want to add a word. I want your feedback on this. It's in addition to you matter, it's you have a confidence. And I'm going to say your connection to God is so solid that you know you're here. And I know the way I take it, it's an obligation. Like, I think the biggest sin is when you know you are here for a divine mission, which I was given mine really early. People say, how do you keep cranking out books? Because God keeps giving me material and I just keep producing it. Like, I don't just say, oh, I need another bestseller. It's like, it's time. I've been called to do it. There's a calling in that edge and in that confidence. Would you agree with that? I mean, how
100%, and I have a term for it, and it's called internal mandates. That's what they are. They're internal mandates, meaning they are non-negotiable. They're non-negotiable. You go, oh, I heard that. Oh, I heard that. Yep, that's a mandate. And you got to act on your mandates, because honestly, if you don't, you won't be punished. What'll happen is you'll miss out. It'll feel like punishment. It's not punishment. It's feedback. That's all it is. It's so interesting. I was, well, do you believe a big yardstick from above is going to strike you out of the sky? No, I don't. What'll happen is you were given a mandate internally with a certain measure of urgency, because that's typically how they show up. A mandate very seldom shows up casually. They usually show up with
911.
Yeah, I like that. Sure. They show up with urgency and exclamation marks. Right. Yep. So, and when you're given one of those mandates, if you don't take action, here's the problem. It isn't specifically necessarily the thing that you're told about. We're moving into really cool territory now. It's not just the thing you're told about. It's what that thing connects to. Oh, it's what it connects to. It isn't specifically important that I meet Loral Langemeier. It's important because when I meet Loral, we will discover, and this happens so much with both of you. Let me be real clear on how true this is for both of my friendships with you. Ken and I have different beliefs about things. We're not at war over it. We bring our different colors. So let's say that two people, and these colors are not political affiliations. I'm going to use these colors because I teach with them. Loral, you bring red. I bring blue. Again, not political. These are just regular colors. Ken brings blue. I bring red. I can just as easily bring red to the relationship as I can blue. It doesn't matter. But whatever Ken brings and whatever I bring,
I prefer red.
Then we'll stick with your political thing. Okay. So, so my point is this, that if Ken brings red and I bring blue, what Ken and Glenn experience is neither red nor blue. What we experience in friendship is purple. And purple is beautiful. And now you can say, what's it like to be in relationship with Ken Walls? And I would say, depends. This is really good stuff. Depends. Well, what do you mean it depends? Well, it depends on what color you are. And that's not a reference to skin color. All right, go deeper. I'm listening. Okay, so if Ken brings red and I bring blue, then we experience purple. Now, watch this. The same man that brings blue, I merge with Loral Langemeier, who decides to bring yellow to the party. And what I experience with Loral is green. It's such, I wrote a chapter about this years ago called People as Colors. So what's it like to be with Loral? And I would say it's the richest experience of green I've ever had. What's it like to be with Ken? It's the richest experience of purple I've ever had. And that's such a beautiful thing. So I can't tell you that when you're together with Ken, that you will experience the purple that I experience, because it depends on what you bring to the party. And I just love that, because that teaches about engagement. People ask me all the time, what's it like to be represented by your agency? I don't know. It's great for me because of what I bring to the party, but I don't know what you're planning to bring. Anyway, it's cool stuff about the way energy works.
Ken, I want you to weigh in on the mandates, because I want to stay on that for a little bit, because I think we all have them. And to your programming conversation earlier, it's like this. I mean, you're running, right? The undertones of program. You've been given a mandate, right? I also heard you, Glenn, you just talk about whispers, right? You've been downloaded. And it's like this. Do they not receive it? Give some interpretation? Because I think everyone, to all of this conversation, has a mandate, and they're oblivious to it. It's like, and almost resistant to it. It's so interesting to watch people, which is part of the recipe of not getting what they want.
Again, it 100% goes back to the programming. Glenn, you were talking and you reminded me of somebody that I think I've actually shared this with you before. I'll share it with Loral and her audience. Back when I first got sober, I was maybe 3 years sober, and I met this guy. His name was Gary, in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Gary was the president of a humongous medical association in the state of Ohio. And I was like, wow, man, there's every walk of life in these meetings. It's crazy, this guy. And so I remember Gary, if you walked up to Gary and you said hi and you shook his hand and said, I'm Ken, I'd say, who are you? And he'd say, my name's Gary and I am having the best day of my life. How are you doing? That's literally his response to everybody that would say, who are you or how are you doing? And And people would make fun of Gary. And he was a bit eccentric in his own ways, but he was always having the best day of his life. No matter what the circumstance, he was always having the best day of his life. In fact, Gary went to testify in front of Congress one time, and for the medical association, he was the president, and he literally decided, I'm going to wear all white. He wore a white top hat, a white shirt. He had a white t-shirt on under it, a white overcoat, a white cummerbund, a white pants, white shoes, white socks, and had a white cane. And that's what he walked into Congress dressed as to testify. He was the most incredible human being I've ever known. One of. He couldn't believe in God, but he knew he had to believe in a higher power. So he chose Harvey, the 6 foot, 3.5 inch invisible rabbit from the movie. That was his higher power. Harvey was his higher power. So Gary ended up with stage 4 cancer, and he was laying in the brand new wing of the James Cancer Hospital at Ohio State University. He was in this beautiful new wing that they had just built. And a friend of mine, his mother was one of Gary's nurses. One particular day, she walked in and Gary was not doing well. And she said, Gary, how you doing? And with all of the energy he could muster up, he opened his eyes and he said, I'm having the best day of my life. Not only that, I get to be here with all of you amazing nurses and doctors in this beautiful new facility. And I just can't think of anything better than that. And Gary passed away an hour later, having the best day of his life.
Let's talk about the toxic 12 or some version of that, Glenn, because in the context of the divine missions we're all given, the internal mandates they happen, and don't you guys think they happen on a regular basis?
Sure. And more so when you rehearse your cooperative attitude with them.
Yes.
They occur more frequently.
And you participate and actually take action on them.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just this traffic jam behind you and you wonder why your life feels so clogged. It's because you haven't done anything besides look at the overwhelm and stay in the drama. So I thought this would be that point of some of the talks. So we don't have to go through all of them, but the biggest ones that people continue, they absolutely make no sense. Like my funny one with money doesn't grow on trees.
There are several. And I'll tell you the reason that I paid attention, because all of these toxic 12, and there are more, but I typically run through the toxic 12. The reason that I started coaching that was on a mandate, right? So I was just open, receptive, responsive, and obedient. I was paying attention. And I started thinking when I heard someone say something that was utterly nonsensical, yet very common. People say, I could care less. No, it actually means that you care. If you say I could care less, that means I care. But if you say I couldn't care less, that means I've reached the absolute basement of caring. I couldn't care less. I'm at the bottom of caring.
So I hope you enjoyed that. I love this section. We have one more part for you to listen into before you leave here and do that. Subscribe to my channel, click that notification button. I want you here 5 days a week. And part of you changing your beliefs is being in a community. I'm going to give you 2 tickets to our Millionaire Intensive. They're in the show notes below. Make sure you show up. The next one is in March. And so I want to see you there. We do them once a month. Go to integratedwealthsystems.com. That link also is in the show notes. So go to Integrated Wealth Systems, actually bookmark our calendar event page and be where we are every week. We have some reason for you to be in touch live with us. If you have any questions at any point, go to askloral.com, ask a question, make a request, and we'll be back tomorrow morning.